sporting in. He brought LeBron in, some guys went out, and that's just a part of it. He said in his personal life, it's very important that sometimes he has to trade friends.
Yeah.
Meaning that you have to maybe get some of the people out of your life that are causing difficulty and getting godly people in your life.
I love that. I love that. He said in his message that that is probably the most important lesson that he's learned. That first of all, we are all presidents of our lives, which I thought was interesting, and that we have to be careful about the people that we have in our life and make sure that we have godly people in our lives. So what a great message to start 2019.
So I'm the president of Greg Musselman, and you're the president of Maggie John, and you're the president of your life. Hey, we got a great show, so stay with us.
Faith is simply trusting that the best, the good, the righteous, and the beautiful will happen regardless of any physical evidence to suggest that it will.
It's around this time of year that we start assessing the added pounds we might be carrying around after the holidays as we make resolutions to eat better. But while our concerns might seem trivial, there is a segment of our population that battles with the way they perceive their bodies every single day. About 90% of people diagnosed with anorexia and bulimia are women. And my guest today battled with anorexia for several years. Welcome, Sarah, to 100 Huntley Street.
Thank you so much for having me.
So it started around 15 years old. You broke up with your boyfriend. Tell me what happened.
Yeah, so when I was 15 years old, I had gone through my first breakup with a boy who I had dated for almost a year. And because he was the first person that I'd ever dated, it took a huge toll on me emotionally. And I remember shortly after we had broken up, he had started seeing someone who, in my mind, was so much prettier than me, so much more athletic and thinner than I was. And so I thought I needed to change everything about myself, about my outer appearance. And so I started running on the treadmill for 5 to 10 minutes a day, and I eventually got up to about 40 minutes to an hour a day, and I started cutting back the calories that I was eating. I had limited myself to 1,000 calories a day, and I actually went down to 300 calories a day. And so you can imagine what my body began to look like. In the course of 3 months, I had gone from 125 pounds to 99 pounds.
Wow. And so what are the internal conversations that you're having with yourself as you look at yourself in the mirror?
At that time, I just felt worthless. I didn't feel good enough. I just felt like I basically needed to change everything about my outer appearance, and I thought that that was the one thing that mattered most, was outer appearance.
And so turning to anorexia, how did this come about? Did you do research? Did you just decide that I'm just going to stop eating? How did that happen?
Well, it became sort of like a healthy lifestyle change at first. I mean, I thought that I was getting more athletic and more fit, and then it became an obsession and an addiction, actually. I just felt this, they call it a runner's high, so I would run on the treadmill and just feel this sense of, I loved the feeling of feeling I was getting more healthier and losing weight and seeing the number go down on the scale each day. And I thought, you know, what a better way to lose weight by counting the calories that I was eating. And so it actually became a really hard addiction. And
what were people around you saying at that time?
A lot of my friends at school were concerned. I actually had a teacher come up to me at school one day and say, "Sarah, you don't look pretty anymore." And some people were encouraging. They said, "Oh, you look great," and others were saying, "You know, what's wrong? Is anything, you know, going on in your life, because you don't look healthy anymore. You don't look like the Sarah that we used to love seeing you smile." And I had lost my smile, and I had lost. I was losing hair, I was losing my body heat, I had lost my menstrual cycle for almost a year.
Wow.
So,
how important is it in what people say around you? Because I've interviewed now a number of people who've gone through anorexia, and the words that people choose to say to you while you're going through this can sometimes be the nail in the coffin.
Right. Yeah, for me, I remember just having a lot of family and friends saying, you know, what's wrong and you don't look pretty anymore, and that was really hard for me because I thought in my mind that I was doing a good thing, and so when they started saying those things, I just felt even more worthless, and just truly felt like I didn't even know where my identity even lied anymore.
And so then you ended up going to an eating disorder clinic. You were diagnosed as having an eating disorder. Tell me about that process.
Yeah, so I remember my friend actually going to her guidance counselor at school, and she had told her about how she was concerned about me. And so the guidance counselor actually...
That's true love.
Yeah, that is.
That she did that. Yeah.
She referred me the guidance counselor referred me to an eating disorder clinic, and it was there where I was diagnosed. And I remember being at that clinic and her saying, Sarah, if you continue to run on the treadmill for even another 5 minutes, you could drop dead of a heart attack because your heart rate is so low. And so I remember that day, you know, I thought that would be enough to scare me to stop running, but I continued to lose weight. And that's...
Why? What was still going through your head?
I felt like I was losing all control. If they were taking that away from me, if they were taking the fact that I could exercise and eat, you know, as much as I wanted, if that was being taken away from me, I felt like I had lost all control over my life. Because I truly believed that the breakup was the one thing that triggered me feeling like I had lost all sense of control in my life.
So that was still playing in your mind.
Yeah.
Was the initial thought of he didn't love me because of my outside appearance.
Exactly.
And so what does faith, or how does faith play a role in all of this?
Well, I remember one day just laying in the bathtub, actually, and I remember crying out to God, even though I had no personal relationship with Him. And I just said, God, you know, if this is happening, you know, why are you allowing this to happen? Because I don't feel happy anymore. I've lost all my sense of joy and purpose. And I remember a few days after, I had this tug on my spirit to want to go to church, and I had no idea why, because I had gone to church maybe once or twice a year, if that, growing up in my Catholic background. And so when I felt that, I had told my parents that I wanted to go to church, and I remember my stepdad, he had prayed for my mom and I for many, many years that we would go to church with him someday, because he had been a Christian pretty much all of his life. And so when I told him that, he nearly fell off his chair. He was so happy. And so he brought us to a church where he thought that would be good for my mom and I, and we were introduced to the pastor there, Pastor Tim and his wife Jackie. And I remember just listening to Pastor Tim's messages and him always emphasizing on trusting and obeying the Lord. And I remember just always wondering, you know, what that meant. So I would read the Bible more, and I would try to understand, you know, what does it mean to fully trust in the Lord with all your heart. And so I remember about a year after going to church, my mom had made the commitment to follow Christ, and I wanted what she wanted because she just seemed like she was so much more full of joy. And so I asked her, you know, what had happened to you? And she said, well, I think you should go and talk to the pastor about it. So I did. I went over to his house, and we had had a discussion about my whole struggle with my eating disorder. And it was in that moment, in his living room actually, where I gave my heart to the Lord. And so it's just amazing how the Lord can use that broken, dark period of your life and turn it into something greater for our good and His glory.
Yeah. You look great today.
Thank you.
Where are you at when it comes to anorexia and the eating disorder?
I feel a lot more free in terms of the way I think about myself and the way that I eat. I don't restrict myself of calories. I don't count my calories. I don't worry about food. I truly believe that the Lord has healed me, and it wasn't instantly. I can't say that that day when I accepted Him into my heart and made Him my Lord and Savior that He had instantly healed me, but I truly believe it has been a process of me just growing and learning, you know, more about His character, and just the fact that He doesn't worry so much about the outer appearance. He worries about what's in the heart.
One of my favorite scriptures is Psalm 139. I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
And just finding freedom in that. When we look at, I think as women, right, we can always pick apart certain parts of our bodies that we don't like.
Right.
But knowing who we are in God's image. That's what I'm hearing, is that you saw yourself in a mirror with God's reflection.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what words of inspiration or encouragement would you give somebody who's going through an eating disorder today?
For me, I would just say don't keep silent about it. Talk to someone about it, because if I hadn't gone and spoke to the guidance counselor at school, she would have never referred me to the eating disorder clinic and so on and so forth. Like, I feel like if you just keep it all inside, people aren't going to be able to help you or pray for you or encourage you. And that was the one thing that had helped me, was people praying over me to help me get to where I am today.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your story and
thank
the
you so much for
boldness of
having me.
doing that.
Thank you.
Oh, I hope these interviews that we have on 100 Huntley Street are an encouragement to you today. Maybe you are going through an eating disorder. Maybe you know somebody that's going through an eating disorder and keeping it very quiet. I love what Sarah's friend did. She shared with somebody else because she loved Sarah so much. You know, if you also just need prayer, because that was such an important part of Sarah's story, is just knowing that God was with her, call our prayer lines. So they're at the bottom of our screen, 1-866-273-4444, or email prayer@crossroads.ca. Amazing people that would love to pray with you, encourage you, and remind you that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
You know, we live in a culture where beauty and your appearance is, looked after. People want to see, people that are good looking. You go through the, checkout lines of the grocery stores, you see all these beautiful people. There's such pressure. And I know as a dad raising 3 daughters, the challenge with that. And eating disorders is a real thing. And I so appreciate Sarah sharing her story and to hear how she was able to find help. And if you need help, again, as Maggie mentioned, we have our prayer lines, 1-866-273-4444. You can always email us at prayer@crossroads.ca. And also we have on the screen there the National Eating Disorders Information Center. I encourage you to do that. And Sarah also too talked about a relationship with Jesus. It didn't fix everything immediately, but it put her on the path. Certainly spiritually, eternally, yes. But it also was a process going through the counseling. So we want to just always be there for you. So again, feel free to give us a call. We'll be back right after these messages. We got a great show, guys. Lots to fit in, but we're going to do it in 3, 2.
We are in the business of delivering hope every single day.
When you watch 100 Huntley Street, you're going to hear stories of transformation, great Bible teaching, people who have been changed by God, and people who are changing the world for God. Greg, your guest, amazing.
It's one of those stories you wouldn't believe until you actually hear it.
I think 100 Huntley Street is for everyone. I think everyone has gone through times of loss. Everyone is looking for hope. Everyone's looking for purpose.
100 Huntley Street is the longest running daily television show in Canada and has literally changed generations. It's a two-way experience. 100 Huntley Street is not paid for by advertisers. It's the people across Canada, partners that are giving to this ministry.
Today, I'm going to bring you a story of someone whose life was transformed while on the show.
The proof that this ministry is really making a difference is the people that we hear from. 1,200
people a day call us for prayer, and we know that they're facing the end of their marriage. We know that they're facing their kids in crisis, a mental health issue, or a job loss, financial challenges, health challenges. And they talk about how their lives are being transformed by God's love through this program.
That's really what gives us that strength to continue on.
What motivates me is the fact that Jesus has done so much in my life. And I know of friends and family who have been transformed by Jesus. This is the reason why I love being a part of this ministry, is because Jesus is the hope.
We are 100% viewer supported. We are so passionate about this media mission of bringing the message of Jesus coast to coast across Canada. We cannot do it without you. Would you please consider supporting this vital media mission? You can give online at crossroads.ca/donate or call us at 1-800-265-3100.
Well, this week on 100 Huntley Street, we are taking the Better Me Challenge with life coach, personal trainer, and motivational speaker, Anthony Cheam. And we're talking about building better lifestyle habits, right? Today, rest and recuperation.
You got
mentioned
it.
off the top of the show, I didn't have a great sleep last night, so I was going to bring my pillow, but I'm going to get some advice from you. So how do we do that?
Well, the one concept and metaphor I love to use with my audiences and my people I work with is this. It's like a bank account. when you want to be rich financially, you want to make more deposits than withdrawals. In our society, we make more withdrawals than deposits. So you want to make more deposits into your health account, into your spiritual account, into your relationship account, into your love account than you are making withdrawals. And one of the ways we can do that is to get better rest and recuperation, to revitalize our bodies, our minds, our spirits, so we can be and show up and act as the best version of ourselves. And the first and foremost thing I talk about when it comes to recovery is getting the recommended amount of sleep, which is anywhere from 6.5 to 8.5 hours of sleep.
You know, and it's interesting. I just read recently that about 100 years ago, we get about 2 hours less of sleep than we do now.
Yeah, yeah.
So sleep, it's important, and
Yes.
we're not getting enough of it.
You got it. And you know what? It's not so much what you do during the sleep that's important. It's how you set up your sleeping patterns, what you do prior to sleeping. One of my favorite techniques that I use prior to sleeping is simply this: 5 minutes before going to sleep. And you know what? I also recommend to the people out there watching this is not to go on any sort of electronic 60 minutes prior to going to sleep or getting ready for bed. 5 minutes before I go to sleep, 10 minutes, I kiss my children good night. I say I love you, say some prayers with them. And what I do is 5 minutes before I go to sleep, I literally put my hands on my heart and I just literally say a deep little prayer just saying thank you, I love you. As I breathe in, I say thank you. And I exhale, say I love you. Breathing in. And just putting yourself in that state of awareness of love and gratitude. And as you enter into your deep sleep, just think what you're marinating during your deep sleep is thank you, gratitude, love, and that starts to marinate into your mind, your body, and then you wake up revitalized. That's one way to do it. And then you can wake up doing the same things too as well.
Okay, we only had a couple of minutes,
Yeah.
but I want to get to a couple things here. Put the phones away, what, at least an hour before?
60 minutes
because
for
it
sure.
stimulates,
Yeah.
or don't maybe be watching like some, you know, sporting event.
Yes,
that's
violent
gonna,
movies that's going to stimulate
yeah.
your brain, stuff like that. I mean, the one thing I definitely recommend to people, something called active recovery. I did talk about this to you before we went on the show here, is something where you don't necessarily have to work out hard, but even getting on a treadmill or walking outside, just going through some breathing patterns. One of the things is called heart rate variability, where you just literally, you breathe in through the nose, exhale through the mouth, breathe in through the nose, exhale through the mouth, and you just do it through a consistent tempo of breathing in through 5, exhale through 8, or breathing in through 3, or exhaling for 6 seconds. And that literally deepens your awareness, relaxes your body, and puts you in that state of calmness.
And I've been trying this.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of us have very busy days,
Yes,
you know,
you got
so
it.
here it's a very active day, or Ministry of the Voice of the Martyrs, whatever I'm doing,
Yes.
my brain's going, I can't sleep. Is the breathing a part of slowing it down because you got all these things that are in your head?
Yes, absolutely. The body, I often say to people, the mind and the body, there's no connection. The mind and the body are one. So what you do with the body is going to affect the mind. And what you do with the mind is going to affect the body. So if you slow down your physiological breathing, slow it down a bit, it's going to slow down your thoughts, and it's going to affect everything, your focus, your ability to serve, your ability to think, your ability to take action in a positive way.
I heard one preacher say, Wayne Cadero, and he's the guy that had a burnout at about 50, and he talked about sleep as thinking that is the beginning of the day. That's how you start your day, is with
very
the
good.
sleep, rather than your day beginning when the alarm goes off.
Yes, you got it. You know what I often say to, I got this from Zig Ziglar, and he's a motivational speaker, and one of my favorite guys, and he talked about how I don't wake up to my alarm clock, I wake up to my opportunity clock, because it's an opportunity to wake up with vigor, with gratitude, with love. And so first thing I do, my alarm clock goes off, my opportunity clock goes off, and I literally say thank you, smile, and I get up and I'm ready, I'm fully charged. And it starts from the beginning before I go to sleep.
And the last thing,
Yeah.
the importance of drinking water.
Oh my goodness. 70–80% of your body is water. We get coffee drinkers, you tea drinkers out there, sure, it's okay for you, but you want to drink water. Like, start your day with like a liter of water or 500 milliliters of water. End your day with water. The earth is 70% water. Our bodies are 70% water, so we must eat foods that are abundant in water and nourishment, as well as just drinking water every single day.
And you know why this is so important? Because the Bible tells us that we are a temple
Yes.
for God, and it's what we put in. Again, you talked about if we're taking more out than we're putting in,
Yes, you got it.
we're in trouble. Well, we're going to have nutrition tomorrow,
Yes, you
and
got
later in the week we're going to have a little exercise.
Yes, you got
and we're
it.
going to practice
Look forward to
the
it.
breathing.
Yeah.
We'll be back with more right after this.
Next week.
And it would be like if you tried to remove one piece of spaghetti without affecting all the other pieces of spaghetti. It's impossible because they're all interconnected. That's why, guys, your wife can bring up in mid-sentence an argument you had 3 months ago.
The psalm was written by a man named David who was feeling guilty and should have felt guilty. He was a murderer, he was a fornicator, He was an adulterer, he was a liar, and he was a hypocrite. He hit the trifecta. And he was drowning in a sea of guilt. He was haunted by the ghost of guilt, and the ghost of guilt never left him. Till he finally realized that God takes care of all of our guilt if we'll come to him and, number one, confess what we've done. That's the first step. You've got to do it. The only knife sharp enough to lance the boil of guilt is the knife called confession. But once you confess, then God does his part. What's his part? His part is cleansing. He cleans out the wound. He cleans out the infection. It may leave a scar, but at least the wound is clean and the cut is gone. And then there comes that time of commitment when you say, Lord, thank you for forgiving me. Thank you for cleansing me. Now give me the strength never to do it again. And when you follow those 3 steps, you'll find the ghost of guilt leaves and the blood of guilt is gone.
Call now with your donation and request your copy of 52 Weeks of the Psalms devotional by Dr. James Merritt. 1-800-265-3100 or make your donation at crossroads.ca/donate. As you begin the new year, what better time is there to be refreshed in the Psalms? This one-year daily devotional will help you dive into God's Word and find new reasons to come before Him in prayer and praise. This book is our thanks for your ministry support. With your gift of $45 or more, we would love to send you this great devotional. Call 1-800-265-3100 or visit crossroads.ca/donate.
This week, the leadership of Jesus. Question, who's leading you? There are so many books on leadership, but let's remember we need to start to understand that we must be led by the leader of leaders. We are going through Luke chapter 5, this amazing encounter when Jesus first calls his disciples. And so far in Luke chapter 5, we found Jesus was teaching to the crowd. He intentionally chooses the boat of Peter because he's about to change Peter's life. And we pray he's changing our lives right now too. We have learned thus far in this text, Jesus has such interest in us as the leader of our lives. Jesus is so intentional with his leadership. And Jesus desires intimacy with us too. Isn't that amazing? The Lord of the universe wants to be so intimate with you and I as he leads us on a daily basis. So we have this setting, and then we find in Luke chapter 5, verse 4, I want to read it for us here. It says this, and when he, Jesus, had finished speaking, he said to Simon, now watch the leadership of Jesus here, put out into the deep and let your nets for a catch. But Simon answered, remember this, Jesus is the carpenter and Peter's the fisherman, but Jesus now in his leadership starts instructing Peter how to fish. Now notice the response of Peter. Peter says this, Simon says this, Master, we toiled all night and took nothing, but at your word I will let down the nets. Notice the first half of that. Master, we toiled all night and took nothing. Let's just break down that phrase here right now as we see Peter's response to Jesus. Peter says, Master, in other words, with all due respect, sir, right? He says, we toiled. In other words, I'm exhausted. I'm so tired. I don't really feel like fishing anymore. We've done that all night. He says again, all night. Why? Why'd they fish all night? That's the best time to fish in this context, was to be in the night. But here is Jesus again as the woodworker. He's instructing the fishermen on how to fish. And so Peter says to him, he says again, listen, I don't really know why you're asking me to do this, because I'm the one who thinks I know again what's supposed to happen with the fishing. But then Jesus again instructs him, because what is Jesus looking for? And here's one of the first main lessons we find as we take up the leadership of Jesus upon our lives. Jesus is looking for faith. Jesus is wanting to see, Peter, this is not what you expected me to say, but do you trust me? Jesus says that to you and I right now. When he leads us, one of the foremost things he does, he says, hey, do you trust me? When things don't seem to be going the way that we thought? When you're maybe asking me to do something I don't feel like doing? Are you going to trust your ways, Robbie? Or Jesus says, but are you going to trust my ways? Are you going to trust that the ways of God are not the ways of man? Sometimes we say to Jesus too, don't we? Like, I'm so tired. We've worked all night. I'm exhausted. We've had no success. Why would I do that again, Jesus, in our own circumstances? But Jesus isn't concerned about what we see as our drawing conclusions. Jesus wants to know, will we respond in obedience to what he's asked us to do? And that's one of the fundamental things we see right here as Jesus calls his first disciples. He's looking for men and women of faith. That we would ultimately respond to Jesus and say, I'm tired, I don't get it, but listen, but at your word, I will let down my nets. And that's such a beautiful response that Peter gives, and we're going to unpack that more this week as we come up. But right now, if Jesus is leading you, he's asking you for your faith. Faith for your future, faith for your friends, faith for your family, faith for forgiveness in Jesus Christ. 1-866-273-4444. Call us right now to see faith grow in your life.
Okay, thank you, Robbie. So we've been looking after the body and the spirit. Now, I don't know about you, Maggie, but I have done a lot of things in my own strength.
Yeah.
And I wear myself out, and then I get this revelation.
Yeah.
I'm going to trust Jesus. I'm going to put my faith in him. And then I start to walk in that, we're not supposed to have these heavy burdens, and all that. And then I go back to the old Greg thing. My wife says I have my skull maybe has a little bit of cement on it, a little thick there sometimes. But there's the thing. We can always start again, whether it is with, some of the things we've been talking about, our goals for the year, resolutions. And if maybe you've dropped off in your faith with Jesus and you want to come back, he's always waiting for you.
Absolutely. Call our prayer lines, 1-866-273-4444, or email prayer@crossroads.ca. Hey, and don't forget, you can catch 100 Huntley Street on many platforms and mobile devices, including Castle, our streaming service, as well as here on Yes TV. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for your ongoing support of Crossroads, a member of the Canadian Council of Christian Charities. You can write to Crossroads, P.O. Box 5100, Burlington, Ontario, L7R 4M2.
It can be easy to fall in love, but it's not always easy to stay in love. The Bible says that love is patient and keeps no record of wrongs. If you want to hear more about God's love, call our 24/7 prayer lines at 1-866-273-4444 or visit crossroads.ca/247prayer. Anytime, anywhere, we're here for you.
Castle is the first video streaming service that's been created to serve you, with high-quality, faith-based media for all ages and a live 24/7 prayer chat. Castle features Christian TV shows, documentaries, teaching series, and kids content. Start your free 30-day trial of Castle and discover this quality Christian resource made for your entertainment and your spiritual growth. Sign up now at intothecastle.com.